Moving on now, Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid has once again insisted that restoring the 2015 nuclear agreement with Iran would be a critical mistake, and the world power should opt for other mechanisms to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Now, Lapid made the statement during a joint briefing with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz on Monday. Lapid, who met Scholz as part of a diplomatic trip to Berlin, warned that nuclear Iran will destabilize the entire West Asia region.
It is time to move past the failed negotiations with Iran. They cannot and will not achieve the goal we all share to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. We discussed the need for a new strategy to stop Iran's nuclear program. A nuclear Iran will destabilize the Middle East and create a nuclear arms race that will endanger the entire world. Returning to the nuclear agreement under the current conditions would be a critical mistake.
Now, German Chancellor, meanwhile, has called out Iran for not giving a positive response to the EU proposal that was unveiled last month.
Die E3, der europäische Vermittler, haben Vorschläge gemacht und es gibt jetzt eigentlich keinen Anlass für den Iran, diesen Vorschlägen nicht zuzustimmen. Aber man muss zur Kenntnis nehmen, dass das nicht der Fall ist. Deshalb wird es jetzt auch in der nächsten Zeit sicherlich nicht passieren, obwohl es eine Zeit lang danach aussah. Wir bleiben geduldig, aber wir bleiben auch klar. Es muss verhindert werden, dass der Iran Atomwaffen einsetzen kann. Das wäre eine Gefahr für die ganze Region und für viele Regionen darüber hinaus.
Now, Germany is one of the countries negotiating with Iran to revive the agreement with world power. Scholz's recent remarks was in regard to a latest statement by France, Germany and the UK. The countries issued a statement over the weekend saying that they could offer no more concessions in the revival talks, adding that Iran's latest demands raises serious doubts as to Iran's intentions to a successful outcome of the talks. Israel's defense minister, Benny Gantz, meanwhile, has claimed that Iran has the capacity to produce enough enriched uranium to make 3 nuclear warheads. Gantz made the statement during a conference in New York and also revealed a map detailing facilities in Syria allegedly being used to arm Iran and its proxies, including Hezbollah. He said that these facilities represent a threat to Israel's security and that the West should ramp up pressure on Tehran so that these facilities can be closed immediately. Israel has time and again tried to prevent the world powers from signing a new pact with Tehran. Israel says that a new deal would facilitate the funding of Iran-supported extremists in the region and will not be able to prevent Tehran from developing a nuclear weapon. Iran has repeatedly denied Israel's claims, saying that its nuclear program is completely safe. Now, Tehran has also said that it is ready to cooperate with the UN nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, for probe on Iranian sites over traces of enriched uranium. Iran earlier had demanded that the IAEA inquiry be formally halted as part of any agreement to revive the nuclear deal. Iran signed this deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, with the United States, China, Russia, Britain, France and Germany in 2015. However, former US President Donald Trump ruled Washington out of the agreement in 2018 and reimposed sanctions on Tehran. Since then, Iran has abandoned many of its own commitments and has ramped up its stockpiles of enriched uranium beyond limits set as per this deal. Now, for more on this, our correspondent Jodie Cohen is joining us live right now. Thank you so much for joining us, Jodie. Two contrasting statements here coming out. Israeli officials saying that Iran talks have failed, and then a rebuttal from US officials saying that President Biden is convinced that the deal is the best way to prevent Iran from possessing a nuclear weapon. Is there a deal or no deal in offing? What do you think?
So that is the question. So following Prime Minister Lapid's trip to Germany, where he said part of the reason was to coordinate positions on the Iran nuclear deal, a senior Israeli official briefed Israeli media and said that the United States and most European countries have given up on the deal, saying that the latest intelligence apparently shows that Iranian leaders have been progressing the nuclear program while the talks were still happening, and that the talks appear to have broken down for varying reasons, with some saying it's due allegedly to Iran's increased demands to the EU's final proposal, while others reportedly blaming the handling by Joseph Borrell, the EU's foreign affairs head, and his chief of staff, while others are saying it's because the US has hardened its stance. Now, the US State Department has rejected this, saying that the deal isn't dead, that efforts are ongoing, and that President Biden still believes that the deal is the best way to stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons, and that the US position hasn't toughened. And I'm quoting here, they're saying that the only one reason that the deal hasn't been signed is because Tehran has not yet accepted the reasonable basis presented by the EU.
All right, Jodie. Also, we need to talk about this, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meet. How is Iran's membership to SCO being viewed in Israel?
Right, so Iran is going to be joining the SCO alongside countries like China and Russia. And there will be concern in Israel about the potential mainstreaming of Iran there. Defense Minister Gantz has called today for the UN Security Council to take action. Israel's also calling for a strategic dialogue with the United States and Europe on achieving the longer, stronger deal that had been promised. Now, Prime Minister Lapid has been clear that he's not against any deal, but that Israel believes that the current draft would enable Iran to achieve a nuclear bomb in the future. Iran is still insisting that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes. They're saying that they won't sign the deal if the IAEA inspectors continue to investigate the traces of nuclear material that were found at 3 undisclosed sites. Now, the IAEA released a report last week saying that Iran has been enriching uranium beyond the levels necessary for the nuclear energy, that its stockpile is 19 times that of the permitted 2015 limit, and that it has enough, if enriched further, to construct a nuclear bomb. And it's saying that it cannot assure the peaceful nature of Tehran's nuclear program. So it remains to be seen what happens next.
All right, Jodie, thank you so much for joining us with all these updates. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.